Students continue to vacate Unitech following death and destruction. Madang establishes Transnational Crime Unit. And swimming excluded from PNG Games.
This is National EMTV News with Hope Imaka.
Good evening and thank you for joining us for Monday's news. The exodus of students continue at the University of Technology 48 hours after the murder of first-year student who was hacked to death on Saturday night in his room. While the situation remains relatively quiet, police were called to the administration building where a group of students smashed in windows of the Vice-Chancellor's official vehicle. Police are also providing protection for students who are evacuating the campus.
This morning, Simbu students packed their bags into 4 buses sent by the provincial government. The Simbu group, which has been among many groups leading the boycott, were clearly disappointed at the recent turn of events and the killing of a fellow student.
We condemn this action. We don't want this action.
Graham Romanong was attacked in his dormitory Saturday night. He died after being slashed multiple times by his attackers. Hours after his killing, the SRC president's house, the mess and other buildings were burned. This has crippled the university's operations.
There was peace amongst the students until Saturday. The attack was, came as a surprise. There was no indication that it would happen.
It's a criminal act. And these other properties, this is not, it's belong to the Papua New Guineans. And we Papua New Guineans, we are the beneficiary of these properties.
Burning down buildings, killing people in the campus. You're turning the university into a battlefield and a funeral home. And this is a disgrace.
The process of evacuating up to 3,000 students has been slow and difficult for many. With heightened security concerns, female students in particular have been wary of venturing into the campus and anywhere near the administration block, where a student faction is currently camped.
The Southern Highland students have placed their house cry next to the administration building, and police were monitoring that. Students are leaving the campus, and we are there to ensure that they feel free to move into the campus and get their personal properties and leave.
Some were assisted by police this morning to recover their properties from the girls' dormitory. There are still some students on campus, some still unable to leave due to transport difficulties. Despite the police presence, tensions remain high. As we were filming, students smashed the Vice-Chancellor's official vehicle. We were advised by police not to film near the administration building for safety reasons. At Boundary Road, in the safety of a guest house away from the troubled campus, a group of 52 Solomon Island students have made this their temporary home. President of the SI Students Association, Ron Gua, said despite the tensions, they were never threatened by the student factions.
They target those they are targeting, and they always come and give us good advice that we are not too afraid and stay and feel comfortable like we are in SI.
But it's become difficult for them to continue to live on campus. The first group of 15 students left for Port Moresby this afternoon, their transportation supported by the SI and Australian governments. Scott Waide, National EMTV News, Lae.
And the brother of the murdered Unitech student today told EMTV that he condemns the killing in the strongest possible manner. He also warned that the killing should not be used by politicians to gain political mileage.
We want to strongly condemn the killing in the strongest words possible. And we want to warn opportunities, politicians not to take advantage of the situations and use it for their own cause, whatever they are trying to do. And we believe this is a criminal matter, and we call upon the police commissioner and the law to take its course to investigate what has happened.
Higher Education Minister Malakai Tabar has strongly condemned the killing of a first-year student at the Lae Unitech University of Technology. In a statement to the media, Minister Tabar said police will investigate the death with a government team deployed to assess the situation at Unitech. Minister Tabar says police will conduct curfews to protect properties and lives in all state universities that are experiencing student unrest. A police investigation interview workshop started today in Port Moresby, hosted by the Australian Federal Police. The workshop is designed to improve the general approach by police when investigating criminal cases, which then lead to successful convictions at the courthouse. Bomana Police Training College Commandant Chief Inspector Pero Drano challenged the commanders on the low statistics of convicted cases at the Waigani District and Committal Courts due to lack of investigative skills.
There are at least 2 to 3 cases that are being thrown out of the committal court each day due to lack of police investigation and evidence presented in court. Complainants on many occasions have bad impression of police, especially prosecutors when cases are dismissed and offenders are set free. When giving his opening remarks, the training college commandant told the attendees that the prosecutor's success in convicting offenders at the courthouse will be as good as the court files prepared by the investigators. This workshop will help to equip investigators with proper skills in conducting interviews and obtaining proper statements from witnesses and gather evidence. Similar workshops have been conducted to investigators and senior officers from Port Moresby and Lae recently. Godfrey Stephen, a traffic accident investigator who attended the workshop last year, have spoken to EMTV News.
Some of us, the officers, we don't have the real proper skills to obtain rightful statements, so that the statements have been gathered together in a court file, and that's where we present it to the courthouse, and where the charges and every lawyers, whoever, they look at the file, and from the file we succeed on with the cases. But if there's a lack of evidences or something like that, okay, the police, they lose their cases, and then the case has been thrown out by the judges.
In March this year, MTV reported about police prosecuting and found out that prosecuting and investigative skills are lacking. Investigators and police prosecutors need the required skills to master today's criminal activities. Discussions are also underway with Police Training College, NCD Prosecution and Criminal Investigation Division to conduct a workshop to find alternatives to address the high dismissal rate of police cases at the Waigani District and Committal Courts. Vasanata Yama, National MTV News.
Several shops in Kimbe have been burnt in retaliation over the killing of a youth in Kimbe. Town Mayor Jackson Endo, who confirmed the incident, has called on the public to refrain from taking matters into their own hands and let the police deal with it. It's understood the youth from Sipik, who resides in Kimbe, was killed early this morning. The incident was triggered by intoxicated youths who demanded money from a shop owner. Many of the settlers and shop owners affected are from Enga and have since fled. Madang town has now joined Vanimo and the nation's capital to have a Transnational Crime Unit office set up for the police force with the help of the Australian government. Transnational crimes are the emerging trend of crimes that's become a global threat, especially with the latest in technology. Rachel Shise with this report.
The Madang Transnational Crimes Unit is one to tackle crimes that have actual effects across national borders, especially those that involve drugs, weapons, human trafficking and other illicit goods and services. Transnational crimes are currently the emerging trend of crimes due to the advanced use of technology, causing a strain on the police force in the country because they are ill-equipped.
You know, all man still all man committing robbery because they come in and out all the time. Some method slowly changed with the help of technology. These are not new criminals, but they have changed their attitude over time. Now only make him walk me like go hard.
Madang Police Station Commander Jacob Singura says the establishment of this office is very timely because big projects will take place in Madang town in the weeks to come and all kinds of people will be coming in and out of the province.
We will have a lot of expatriates coming in. And when they come in, we don't know who they are, what they're here for.
PPC Singura pointed out that the police force is in need of support in order to be well equipped to combat today's crime trend and is therefore thankful to the Australian government.
Most times, the police on our own, we can't get things going. So, in the bigger picture, we very much value those contributions.
However, Commander Guinness warned that all donated facilities must be well used and taken care of because such contributions are rare from the PNG government.
We literally cannot, and we have not been able to support through the RPNGC or through the government of PNGC working models or something. Also, maybe our people, the politicians, the bureaucrats, all got a clear understanding of what transnational crime is and how transnational crime can affect people politically, socially, and economically.
The Pacific Transnational Crimes Coordination Center for all transnational crimes units in the Pacific is located in Samoa. The Royal Papua New Guinea Constabulary is a very important part of that network, being the largest police force in the region with key members of that regional network. Rachel Shise, National EMTV News, Madang.
PNG will host the 9th ICT Regional Forum in Port Moresby this week. Policymakers and regulators from the Asia-Pacific region will discuss ICT issues emerging from the Pacific. Among the agenda items are topics such as international connectivity, reducing mobile roaming charges, cybersecurity and emergency communication and ICT for disaster risk reduction. NICTA will be hosting the forum, which will begin tomorrow and will end on Thursday. National EMTV News continues after the break. Stay with us. Welcome back. Legislation for supply of electricity to communities along power grid areas is under final processes to be presented in Parliament next month. Petroleum and Energy Minister Ben Micah announced this at the Pacific Energy Conference in Singapore recently. He said the policy will look at the domestic use of LNG gas, geothermal and appropriate technology for remote communities. The policy will also enable the private sector to work with the government and provide electricity. Working in line with the outcomes of the Paris Climate Change Meet, Minister Micah said more emphasis will now be directed toward a cleaner energy source for PNG people. The work of churches in settlement areas continue to play a critical role throughout the country. Yesterday, residents of the notorious 9 Mile settlement outside Port Moresby witnessed the opening of a new Seventh-day Adventist church building. The church was built at the cost of 1.4 million kina.
The notorious 9 Mile area is seeing a gradual decline in criminal activities over the past 5 years, thanks to the work of 12 different denominations that have been playing a critical role in changing mindsets through spiritual programs. Yesterday, hundreds, including non-Seventh-day Adventist believers, joined the members of the 9 Mile SDA congregation to open the new church building. It was a time for praise and worship for those who attended the celebrations. Speaking prior to the ribbon cutting, Central Papua Conference President Pastor Kovetau said the church is a light and a place for man and God.
presence no God. Presence no God, people only respecting this community.
The church was built through generous contributions of individuals, church fundraisers and the Central Papua Conference. It took 4 years to build a church with local manpower.
And today it is a joyous pleasure and occasion of cutting ribbon from this church for the entrance of God's people inside Lord Madang.
The church can house nearly 8,000 members with a baptismal pool inside the church.
We welcome you tonight, my church.
Jack Lapava, Junior National, EMTV News.
An integrated demographic health survey is essential to obtain data for the health, education and agriculture sectors. Data collected through this method can be used by the National Statistical Office for planning purposes. This was highlighted by National Statistician Rocco Koloma during the second Provincial Health Survey Coordinators Workshop held at Sogeri outside of Port Moresby. Eric Harupma with this report.
This workshop is preliminary to the actual National Statistical Office field data collection project that is set to commence in the months of September and November. In this 2 days workshop, 22 provincial coordinators were briefed about their fieldwork plan, costing activities and how to implement the project. In addition, it will help participants with the knowledge on how to coordinate the activities at provincial levels. Data collection is always difficult, but NSO is engaged with provinces and developing partners to obtain quality data that is of standard. And these participants played an important role in successfully coordinating the NSO project in respective provinces.
Cooperating on issues of identifying the places, what the requirements of logistics is all about, and at the same time making sure that we get good quality statistics out from this effort.
National statistician Rocco Koloma said the bottom-up approach resembles this project. At the moment, NSO is targeting at least 800 villages through the DSH survey to obtain accurate data. However, the question is how many provinces are going to appreciate this method of data collection.
You know, we are covering close to about 800 villages for the DHS that will give us estimates at the provincial level, which we have not done before. So I'm really looking forward to this one-on-one discussion with the regions and make them appreciate, involved in it.
Eric Arupma, National, EMTV News.
The cry for proper health facilities for people in the Konoagil local level government in New Ireland has been heard. Oil palm developer Million Plus Corporation and landowner company Laka Forest Development Limited have joined hands to build 2 sub-health centers in the villages of Kumin and Kandas. A groundbreaking ceremony was held recently in Bakok village on the east coast of Namatanai.
Nearly 2 months after the official groundbreaking ceremony of the multi-million Konoagil oil palm project, developer Million Plus Corporation is showing its readiness to improve services to communities in the Konoagil LLG. A groundbreaking ceremony was held to signify the establishment of 2 sub-health centers for Kumin and Kandas villages. Earlier this year, when EMTV visited the local level government, the O'Neill Center was in a sorry state with limited supply of medical drugs and housing woes for health workers.
This building I'm same yet. The time only building 1982 and up now. Time all works have been stopped, only sa work minor maintenance that's all. Time works have been finished. This la work to am finished now.
Joining hands with the developer, umbrella landowner company Laka Forest Development purchased 2 sawmills to help build housing for the health workers.
Now this is sawmill now, I go custom now all DY. We house sick me by need him. Now I don't snap him to solve house sick, because house sick by needing workman, who said by need him house. So me blah stand up him house too, blah all workman, all good blah house, so you me by greasy more stop, long blah time no look sao me plan help me blah.
With survey work progressing, locals believe the new sub-health centers will improve the current struggles they endure to seek better treatment and health care.
You know, transport area belum kami langsung kan. General Police. Before I think we are long independence police double chain.
The two sub-health centers will cost nearly 500,000 kina to build. Jack Lapave Jr. National EMTV News.
Beneficiary groups and landowners have until September this year to buy equity shares from LNG. This extension was endorsed by the NEC earlier this month. The beneficiary groups include 5 provincial governments and landowners in the LNG project area. And now looking at our finance news. The kina opened unchanged at $0.3160 US in the interbank market. At Bank South Pacific, your kina was buying $0.3085 US, $0.4121 Australian dollars, $0.2758 euro, and 31.30 Japanese yen. Looking at commodity prices at New York close, gold closed higher, coffee and cocoa closed lower, while copper closed the day unchanged. Palm oil, crude oil, and copper closed the day lower. And on the stock market, the Dow Jones closed at 610.32 points lower, the ASX closed at 22.52 points higher, and the All Ordinaries closed at 22.07 points higher. Stories making headlines overseas when we come back. Welcome back to the news. A group of kayakers paddled to Australian Prime Minister Malcolm Turnbull's Sydney Harbourside home on Saturday to protest against the government's support for fossil fuels and inaction on climate change ahead of the elections next weekend. The members of Sydney's Pacific Island community and their supporters say many Pacific Islanders are facing the loss of their homes as climate change drives rising sea levels even higher. Despite signing the Paris Agreement to limit dangerous global warming, the Turnbull government has made no steps to combat the causes of climate change.
The Pacific Islands are threatened by rising sea levels caused by mining and burning of fossil fuels, and the protesters say by refusing to take action, Australia is ignoring its responsibility as good neighbours to help curb the impacts of climate change. About 50 kayakers set off from the Blues Beach Reserve in North Sydney, past Kirribilli House and across the harbour to Lady Martin Beach Point Piper, where they delivered their protest message to Mr Turnbull. Despite climate action continuously receiving high levels of support from voters, the coalition has consistently refused to act. Climate change was not mentioned in the federal budget. They lobbied the UN to censor the damage caused by climate change to the Great Barrier Reef. They approved coal mines even after signing the Paris Agreement to limit global warming to under 2 degrees and slashed funding for renewable energy. 350.org campaigner Isaac Astle says the cosy relationship between Australia's biggest polluters and its major parties is blocking action on climate. The protest is the first of many expected to occur around Australia this week to highlight the links between politics and fossil fuels, including subsidies to companies from the government and donations to political parties from the fossil fuel industry. Vanessa Knight, EMTV World News.
The people of Britain voted for a British exit, or Brexit, from the EU in a historic referendum last Thursday. The outcome has prompted jubilant celebrations among Eurosceptics around the UK and sent shockwaves through the global economy.
After resigning as Prime Minister, Mr Cameron said his successor should take up office by October, at which point the UK would embark on its 2-year political divorce from the EU. He assured his people he will do everything in his power as Prime Minister to steady the ship over the coming weeks and months. However, he does not believe it would be right for him to try to be the captain that steers England to its next destination. The next step is for Britain to tell the EU that it wants to go by using Article 50 of the EU rulebook for the first time in history. But there is now a short moment for reflection before Mr Cameron's successor triggers this legal mechanism which gives the UK 2 years to leave the EU. Eurosceptic MP Boris Johnson, the favourite to replace the Prime Minister, has hailed Brexit as a glorious opportunity for Britain to find its voice in the world again. Now one may ask, what does Brexit mean for the economy? The Brexit victory sent economic shockwaves through global markets, and UK stocks on Friday had their worst drop since the financial crisis. The pound on Friday fell to its lowest since 1985, and emergency steps are now being taken to calm the economic turmoil. There is uncertainty over what will happen when Britain leaves the EU because it has to make new trade agreements with the rest of the world. Bank of England Governor Mark Carney said some market and economic volatility can be expected as this process unfolds, but we are all prepared for this. Supporters of Brexit argue that EU countries have every incentive to keep trading with the UK, which is a large importer of goods and services. But Europhiles worry that foreign companies will be less likely to invest and could relocate their headquarters if Britain loses access to the EU's single market. Ahead of the referendum, investor Neil Woodford, founder of Britain's Woodford Investment Management, described pro-European claims that the economy would be damaged as bogus, saying it is a nil-sum game, quite frankly, whether Britain stays or leaves the EU. UKIP leader Nigel Farage has also said the Brexit vote is good news for exporters who have struggled with the high value of the pound. Now that Britain has voted to leave the EU, it will no longer have to contribute billions of pounds a year towards the European Union's budget. During the campaign, Eurosceptics slammed a Confederation of British Industry report that claimed the Brexit would cause a £1 billion shock to the UK economy. The Treasury was also accused of doom and gloom after predicting that a Brexit would cost households £4,300 a year by 2030, leaving Britain worse off for decades. Lorraine Gabina, EMTV World News.
Medecines Sans Frontier released a video from a rescue operation on Thursday. The video was taken during a rescue operation of more than 3,500 migrants and showed dinghies full of panicked migrants who can be heard yelling and seen jumping onto rescue boats.
Ships manned by humanitarian organizations, the Italian Navy and Coast Guard helped rescue about 4,500 boat migrants last Thursday as calm seas prompted a surge in departures from North Africa. Italian Coast Guard said they were coordinating 27 rescue operations in the Mediterranean on Sunday and had already saved 3,500 migrants.
Boats coming directly at us, completely full of panicked people. It was so stressful for everyone that they jumped onto us and we had to pull people out of the water. And then when they came to our rescue vessel here, everyone was in a state of panic and started climbing and fighting, and it was a complete mess.
An agreement between Turkey and the EU to stop migrant departures for the Greek islands has reduced boat arrivals by 98% during the first 5 months of the year from the same period of 2015, the International Organization for Migration said. Arrivals in Italy continue at about the same pace as last year, and the deadly Central Mediterranean route has already claimed 2,438 lives, according to IOM statistics. Vanessa Knight, EMTV World News.
Trukai Sports is next. We have a big lineup in sports, swimming, volleyball and netball. Stay tuned.
Trukai Sports.
Welcome to Trukai Sports. The PNG Games will not include competitive swimming for provinces in the coming Kimbe Games. Despite swimming being exhibited at the 2014 Games in Leh, lack of facilities in the provinces meant swimming had to be dropped. However, existing and established clubs around the country have been encouraged to create swimming clubs to encourage young sportsmen and women to participate. Meanwhile, Team PNG performed well in the recent Oceania Swimming Championships in Fiji, pocketing several medals. Godwin Eki reports.
Following the exhibition of swimming inlay in 2014, two teams, Morobe and Central teams, participated in the competition before Team Morobe defeated Central in the pool. The reason of the exhibition was to encourage other provinces to establish and participate in the Code of Swimming and to affiliate with PNG Swimming Inc. But this year swimming won't be part of the PNG Games as there are no facilities for the Code of Swimming. Despite this, swimming clubs are encouraged to attract more young people to join the swimming clubs around the country and to generate the interest of sports. Meanwhile, a team of 8 swimmers performed very well at the recent Oceania Swimming Championships in Fiji after arriving last night in Port Moresby after a 4-day competition. From the team, Ryan Pinney won silver in the 50-meter fly, 50-meter back and 100-meter fly, while the mixed 4x50 medley team of Shanice Baraka, Barbara Valley, Ryan Pinney and Sam Segers took the first 2 relay medals. In the men's 100-meter medley relay, Ryan Pinney, Ryan Masculine, Sam Segers and Stanford Kawale finished off the meet in the last race of competition with a bronze medal. Ryan has qualified as a big qualifier and has his sights set on Rio. Godwin Eki, National EMTV Sports.
50 teams around the country are expected to attend the Volleyball Championships in Port Moresby in September. The capital city will be represented by 2 volleyball associations. They are NCD and Fairfax Volleyball. Both associations have been running weekend competitions to finalize teams for the national titles in September.
Those of our sports that came first and second and third respectively, that means that we won gold, silver and bronze. We're going to maintain some of those players. So we don't reinvent the wheel. We work on and we concentrate on those players because that will be our core players. If the players have gone or by reasons they are not able to make it, then we do additional on the core team. So that's our focus and that's our attention and that's our way forward. All we have to do is refinance that arrangement. Advise them the importance and the preparation side of things, so then we can be able to work towards it. Our final, we've advised all the sports that we want the final listing to be given to us by the end of this month.
PNG Volleyball Referees Commission Chairman Joey Senna has urged volleyball associations around the country to facilitate Level 1 coaching training for their referees. This comes after 11 referees' ranks were elevated over the weekend following the Level 1 coaching training they received.
Under the International Volleyball Federation, all referees are required to be trained and qualified to ref any volleyball game. After presenting 11 referees with Level 1 national badges, Chairman Senna said associations around the country are yet to implement Level 1 coaching training. The 11 who received the national badges are the first lot to undergo training and can now ref nationally.
Yes, now since the Volleyball Referees Commission was set up 30 years ago, it has actually done no attempt to professionalize the ranks of the technical officials. And when I came in 2 years ago, I made it a point that should be the case, that we should actually make sure that whenever we send somebody on the stand that this is a credible person and he has to go through the same things that we did, but this time conducted by the Referees Commission here. That does not allow them to referee overseas, but it does allow them to referee at the national level, like the championships and the PNG Games. Now for those who do not make the cut for that, there is a second badge, the provincial referees badges.
Senna encouraged associations to implement the training to bring volleyball in the country up to international level. Dinero Straiko, National EMTV Sports.
The second National Netball Under-21 selection trials will be held soon on the 7th and the 8th of July 2016 at the Rita Flynn Courts in Port Moresby. The selection trials will include members of the current train-on squad, high-performing players to be identified at the forthcoming national championships, and selected overseas-based Papua New Guineans who are actively engaged in competitive netball internationally.
According to Netball PNG's High Performance Coordinator Mona Lisa Leka, the board is opening up the selection process to high-performing athletes in the country and overseas to be part of the selection trial to add value and competitiveness to the selection process. Overseas-based players will be required to send in an expression of interest, including their player profiles, evidence of citizenship or eligibility, evidence of playing competitive netball, and confirmation letter from their local associations on their membership and affiliation. The trials will see a final 20-member training squad selected, which will then be trimmed to the final 15 at an invitational friendly match against the Singapore National Under-21 squad from the 21st to the 24th of July in Port Moresby. The final 12-member team will be selected in a final camp in August to participate at the Regional World Cup qualifying tournament in Auckland, New Zealand from the 24th to the 27th of September 2016. The top 3 countries at the September qualifiers will represent the Oceania region at the 2017 World Youth Cup in Botswana. Elijah Levet, National EMTV Sports.
Trukai Sports continues after the break. Stay tuned.
Trukai Sports.
Welcome back. The SP PNG Hunters lost a tough encounter to the North Devils, 24 points to 8 in the Intra Super Cup Round 16 clash yesterday at Bishop Park, Australia. Trailing 14-2 at half-time, the Hunters were the first to score in the second stanza through Noel Zemming, who also converted the try to narrow the scoreline 14-8. The Devils took over the scoring with 2 tries to further extend their lead and seal the victory. After yesterday's loss, the Hunters now sit in 4th place on the ISC ladder and will play Tweedheads in their Round 17 match. Malaysia suffered a blow in the first friendly against Papua New Guinea, going down 2-0. However, bounced back to draw their match against Fiji in the second leg of their international friendly. Prior to that, they managed to hang on to a nervy victory over New Caledonia by 2-1 to seal off the Oceania campaign.
The visitors took the lead in the 44th minute of play when striker Mohamed Yahya slammed the ball past Benamino Matinakara from inside the box, taking advantage of a lapse in concentration from the Fiji defense. Homeside captain Roy Krishna was on point in the second half, scoring the equalizer in the 74th minute from the right flank with the strike that left Malaysian goalkeeper Khairul Mat stunned. Fiji coach Frank Farina made some timely changes in the second spell that turned the momentum in Fiji's favor after the first period that proved beneficial to the visitors. Farina said it was a good game, but there remains many areas to improve on. Fiji will feature in the third round of the Oceania 2018 FIFA World Cup qualifiers next year. Malaysia defeated New Caledonia 2-1 and lost to Papua New Guinea 2-0 on the 3-match Oceania tour. Shane Saroya, National EMTV Sports.
The Arab Rugby Football Union has received funding from SB Brewery as part of its corporate social responsibility. The company will support the 11th edition of the Black Orchid Sevens tournament in Arawa Town this weekend. A total prize money of 100,000 kina is up for grabs in the biggest sevens tournament in the country.
Launched on the 8th of June in the nation's capital, the 11th Black Orchid Sevens tournament kicks off this weekend on the 2nd of July for the first time in Arawa Town. Tipped as the biggest sevens tournament on the rugby circuit, the Rugby Festival this year has not only attracted teams as far as the Solomon Islands, but has also welcomed a large family of sponsors who play an enormous role in improving rugby union in the autonomous region of Bougainville. This year's tournament is a first of many, the most notable being the introduction of a women's tournament, something which demonstrates the growth of the code in the region.
Being a very historical event under Rugby Sevens, a 2-day event, it not only includes male sporting excellence, but also will have female competition as well. And the Women's Rugby Union will also have their competition held side by side with the men's. But the competition's all about bringing the country together in a place where it's had its fair share of problems. And now it's rising out of the ashes, making something very special through the name of sport.
But Chichenko isn't the only one ecstatic to be a part of this year's tournament. The biggest union in the nation, the Capital Rugby Union, has also recognised Bougainville's efforts and commitment to growing the game.
It's all about the people and the essence in which people of Bougainville has come from, where it's clearly been articulated over the years. But rugby union is the vehicle in which brings the people together. And like rightly you said, we are the biggest competition in the country, and that's the rightful thing. The right thing for us to do to promote rugby is to effectively be part of that competition and show the support for the people of Bougainville.
While CRU holds the better position in obtaining this year's title, there will be strong competition expected from all unions, particularly the homegrown Black Orchids. Lorraine Genia, National EMTV Sports.
The Australian Wallabies have lost their first test at Allianz Stadium in Sydney since 1995. It was against England in their second test match for the year on Saturday night. From the 11th minute onwards, England had this game covered. From Dan Cole's first try to inside centre Owen Farrell's man-of-the-match performance with 24 points on the boot. Israel Folau and Matt Tumua were, however, influential for Australia, directing a number of set plays. But it would be Nick Phipps who failed to control the back line in his position as halfback, causing a number of setbacks for the team. With 3 back-to-back losses to England, the Wallabies will be banking on their Europe tour to improve their status on the World Rugby ranking. In other international test matches over the weekend, the New Zealand All Blacks thrashed Wales 46-6, while the South African Springboks just snatched a win off Ireland with a final score of 19-13, and Scotland's 21-16 reign over Japan. Following 3 weeks of international rugby, the Super Rugby calendar will resume this weekend, with the first match between the Chiefs and Crusaders to be played in Suva, Fiji at the ANZ National Stadium. That ends True Kai Sports. The weather details when we come back.
True Kai Sports. True Kai Sports.
Your weather forecast for tonight and tomorrow. In the southern region, mostly fine for Port Moresby and Daru, showers or 2 for Kerma and Alatau, and showers for Popondetta. In the Momasa region, thundery showers for Lae, shower or 2 for Madang, and showers for Wewak and Vanimo. In the New Guinea Islands, shower or 2 for Lorengau, thundery showers for Kavieng and Buka, and evening showers for Kokopo, Rabaul and Kimbe. And in the Highlands region, showers then morning fog for all centres. Forecast for small ships for the next 24 hours. The first, strong wind warning current for all coastal waters of the southern region, Finchafen through Vete Strait to Long Island, including CSE Islands, Dampier Strait, and West New Britain to Bougainville. Water of southern PNG Indonesian borders through Torres Strait and Daru to Kiwai Island to Kerma to Yule Island to Hood Point to Samurai Island with waters of eastern and western Milne Bay Islands, with waters of Samurai Island to Cape Vogel to Finchafen, with waters of Finchafen through Vete Strait to Long Island, including CSE Islands, Dampier Strait, and with waters of West New Britain to Bougainville, seas 2 to 3 meters. Waters of Long Island to Madang, to Bogia, to Wewak, to Aitape, to Vanimo, and northern PNG Indonesian border, with waters of Manus and its western group of islands, seas 0.5 to 1.3 meters. And with waters of New Ireland to East New Britain, seas 0.5 to 1.5 meters. Ocean forecast for PNG areas. In the Coral Sea, seas moderate to rough with southeast winds at 20 to 34 knots. In the Solomon Seas, seas rather rough with southeast winds at 20 to 25 knots. In the Bismarck Sea, seas slight with patches rough with southeast winds at 10 to 15 knots with stronger gusts reaching 34 knots. And in the Pacific Ocean, seas slight with northeast to southeast winds at 10 to 15 knots. Now recapping our main stories for tonight. Students continue to vacate Unitech following death and destruction. Madang establishes Transnational Crime Unit, and swimming excluded from PNG Games. And that's the news, sports and weather for tonight. On behalf of the entire news team, I'm Hope Imaka. Pleasant viewing. Good night.